I got to work early today. Guess what that means? It's time to talk a little bit. So, anyhow, I hope y'all are having a lovely day. Hair is weird today, whatever. So, let's talk for a second. Mark Baxter podcast, recorded this last Tuesday. Great. Loved it. Haven't heard it yet. Had a great conversation, though, talking about pornography. Touched on a few aspects that I hadn't expected to talk about. That was really, really good to have talked about. And some stuff that I hadn't really thought about before, or that I've thought about but hadn't really addressed. For example, what to do about raising kids in a world where pornography is so pervasive, and how to deal with that. I'm not a dad. There's an amper lamps there. I'm not a dad, so I've never had to deal with that. You know, Mark Baxter, the Maxter, he is a dad. He's got 3 kids, I think. So for him, that is a very, very real concern to have. And so, we talked about that. So we talked about a bunch of stuff. So keep an eye out for that. The podcast is not out yet. The way he does it is he records podcasts in advance. I don't know how many he records in advance, but I think he does kind of, do a few in batches and then releases them one at a time, which is a good way to do it. So keep an eye out for that. I will let you guys know when it is released. In the meantime, check out his website, check out the other podcasts, because they are great. It's not so much, Christian oriented like mine is. It's not so much about pornography, but it is stuff that I learn from a lot. I've learned a lot from these podcasts. Really great stuff. And there are great guys on those podcasts. I have a lot to say, a lot to teach, a lot of experiences that are worth sharing and worth listening to. So, check that out in the meantime. Like I said, I'll let you guys know when the one with me comes out. And, so that should keep you tied over until then. Anyhow, there are a couple things, at least one thing. I might think of more things, but I've got one thing in particular that I did learn from this experience doing this podcast. The podcast was great conversation, but it could have been better, and that is on my part. Mark knows what he's doing with the podcast. That was great. He asked great questions, all that kind of stuff. I'm not really used to the format of being interviewed, though. It's kind of odd, because if we go back in time to when I first started doing this channel, before I started doing this channel, when I decided that I was going to do this, I couldn't do it. I had no speaking talent. I was a no talent. If you've seen that video with the midget getting angry at the guy who's not particularly good at the instrument he's practicing in public, but I was a no talent. And so, where do you go from there? I don't really have a starting place. I'm not realistically not cut out for the venture that I have decided to do. Can't think of a better word. But I'm not cut out for this speaking stuff. Growing up, I was not, a conversational person. I was, didn't have a lot of good friends and stuff like that. I was a yes, no, okay kind of conversationalist. Those were the 3 words I knew, basically. It could be worse. I think there was one kid recently who, he was, around 9 or 10, and the only 3 words he knew were juice, gorilla, and something else. Gorilla is a good word to know. Remember Harambe, always. But anyhow, so the point is, I wasn't cut out for what I was doing. And I was like, well, let's try to do it anyway. By that point, I think I had read, this was at the time. I read Gorilla Mindset, which was just a totally new region for me. I know there's a lot of people in the the whole self-help, personal improvement, personal growth kind of market, kind of landscape online and all that. And Gorilla Mindset was my very first exposure to that, and it was a good first exposure. I learned a lot from that. Couldn't handle it the first time. Just my brain just kind of rejected it. Read it a second time and like, okay, this is making some points here. So a good book. I do recommend it, Gorilla Mindset by Mike Cernovich. But other than that, I started, I decided, okay, you know what? Let's try it out. Let's make it happen. So I recorded a video. It sucked. Didn't upload it. Recorded another video. It sucked. Didn't upload it. Useless videos. No value. Did it again and again and again and again. Did the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over. And here's the thing. When you do that, when you do the same thing over and over again, when you do something that involves a skill, a talent over and over again, something happens. You start to get good. You start to get less bad. It gets better. A little bit better. A little bit better. A little bit better. And you analyze it and you figure out, what did I do wrong? How did this go wrong? What can I do better? How do people who are better than me do this better than I do? And you get good. You unlock the secrets of get good. And that is the key. And so eventually we got to where we are now. This is totally natural for me to do. For a long time, I had to do warm-ups and mental exercises and stuff to get ready to do a video like this. Now it just kind of comes out, I just do it, and it works. And, I only have 2 minutes left of recording space on my phone, so let's hurry up and wrap this up here. There was, put myself under pressure. But anyway, so for the interview format, though, for the podcast, wasn't quite as prepared for that. A lot of what I learned carried over, some of it didn't. So it could have been better, basically. The podcast could have been better, and that's on me. I could have warmed up some of those warm-ups I learned, some of those mental exercises I learned to get ready. Could have prepared in a few ways a little bit better. Like I said, great podcast, good conversation. It's going to be great. But could have been better. And I could have, brought a little bit more to the table there. And so, I guess, the thing I learned is, is as much as you ignore and demolish your limitations and just completely overcome them, still be aware of them. Be aware of what you need to do in advance to prepare yourself to overcome those limitations. So for me, being interviewed, that kind of format I would still consider that some degree of a limitation. Can be overcome, though. I know how to overcome it. I know how to talk now. There's no issues there. I've kind of had other people on my channel before, interviewed them in that kind of format, and that's gone well. But this was a little bit different, something I wasn't quite used to, and so I was expecting to be, oh yeah, I got this. And could have been better. I got a little bit nervous when it finally came time to do it. And so that reflects that. But anyway, podcast should be out soon. The way he does it, he records them in advance, so I think I already said that. But so it'll be up, at some point. I'll let y'all know. But that's it for now. That is the thing I learned from being interviewed on the Mark Baxter, the Maxter podcast. So take it easy, but not too easy. Talk to you guys later.